everyone. Welcome back to The Moment. It's your old pal, Meredith Lynch. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Rebecca Senanez, and it's a very special day. It's Friday, December 19th. We have a very special guest co-host with us today, and I also want to send a happy birthday. We did a happy birthday shout-out last week. I want to do another happy birthday shout-out today. Happy birthday, Lauren Sanchez Bezos. I hope you have a wonderful day. May all your birthday wishes come true. Feel free to unblock me. Right? Well, we're so excited because
she blocked you, Meredith.
She blocked me. She blocked me.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, she blocked me. When I was making my my content about her being an astronaut.
I gotta rewatch that. That's great. Or I have to catch
Meredith is like an expert at having really good beefs with people. Like,
oh yeah, I've seen a few. Yeah,
but like she's always on the right side of the beef. Always. And it's like she pushes, part of it is like she pushes exactly the button that they're like, I hired an entire PR crisis team to handle this. Like, how dare this little bitch on the internet call me out for, you know what I mean? Like, she always gets like right under their skin.
Oh my gosh, Meredith, I hope I never get on that side of things where you're calling me out on something.
Well, I'll tell you who I don't have a beef with, Karine Jean-Pierre. Exactly. Who's joining us again as our guest co-host. Y'all know Karine. She was the White House press secretary and senior advisor to former President Joe Biden. She's worked in senior communications and political offices in both the Biden and Obama administrations. Prior to her time in the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre was the chief public affairs officer for MoveOn.org. She is the author of the memoir Moving Forward and recently published her book, Independent. She is a graduate of Columbia University. She's back on The Moment. We're happy she's here. Karine, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh, can I just say, I love the intro music. I was listening. I was like, oh,
yeah. So good.
Wait, Karine, I forgot to tell you. Yesterday, I had to renew my driver's license online. And so I redid my voter registration and I got to register as an independent.
Yay! Wait, and you're out in LA, right?
I'm out in LA because last time I was in New York and you can't vote in primaries in New York if you're not part of the party, which I learned the hard way last time because I really wanted to vote for Elizabeth Warren in the primaries and I had to vote by affidavit. I learned this the hard way.
Yes. And many people, and just think about it, the millions of independents out there are people who see themselves as independents who have that same issue. Yeah. It's really hard. And here where I am, the state that I live in, I can be independent, but I can't vote in the primary. And so this is one of the issues that I really want to address as we get into 2026 and figure out, okay, how do we change that?
I love that. Yeah, I think this is like a really important, in New York, they started doing ranked choice voting and you can vote.
I love ranked choice voting.
Working Families Party.
Yeah.
Often lists the Democratic candidates. So that's something that we should like talk about going into the year.
I would love that. We should because there are things that need to be done and the system is not working if millions of people can't participate, right? And so I think that's a real thing. And millions of young people see themselves more and more as independent. So there's a real conversation to be had for sure.
Amen.
Do you guys see it going more in the direction of having people as independents before we have a third party?
Yeah, just so look in the book, I talk about the independent party or having a party that's a third party, I should say. And I think history has shown us that that's a very dangerous road to go down and how historically it has affected some real, important elections. So I'm not, I respect the Working Families Party. I know you were talking about the Working Families Party. I started my time in New York City politics, working for city council member, and the Working Families Party has done amazing things on the ground when I was there. But I think in this moment, there are millions of people who should just be able to participate, who see themselves as independents. And I think that's where we make it too much about the two-party system and not about people, and how do we get them involved? How do they feel like they have a say and a voice? And so that's the argument more so. And also the broader part of it is like, how do we forget the party affiliation? I think all of us need to be independent thinkers because there's so much going on whether it's disinformation, misinformation. We all have to be fact checkers and hold powerful people to account. So there's this independence in us that we need to really follow.
I also feel like it's, now that everything is so bipartisan, it would be healthy if we figured out, like, maybe we can't go back to the monoculture exactly, but like some sort of independent culture. But speaking of the monoculture, I feel like, I've just been, I cannot stop thinking about this Rob Reiner story. And I think part of what makes it so sticky, other than like the shockingness of it, Molly McPherson, our friend, has been talking quite a bit about how it harkens back to the 90s, like visually. It's like these old school press conferences. Rob Reiner was so like, his movies were just beloved by they were such like American movies.
Iconic,
I was wondering, had you ever met the Reiners? They feel like people that would have fallen into your circle.
So I have first of all, too, what you just said, it's just such a tragedy for Rob and his wife, the way that this all happened.
Like his kids.
Just imagine the trauma and the damage that it's going to have for decades within the family in this tragedy, in this moment. And Rob was amazingly talented. And you just said it. He had some of the most amazing movies, iconic movies that really touched to so many important things that we love and, and like how to have relationships. It was just some of the most really touching movies that he's been able to put out, and funny too. And
always the moment where it's too saccharine, he drops something really funny, and so you get that like, sweet, like I was watching The Princess Bride the other day, and the kissing scenes where like it starts to be a little bit much. The little boy comes in and he's like, "Grandpa," and you like he breaks that tension so well.
Sorry, the tension breaker is you're right. There's such a big tension breaker. And look, I did get to know him a bit in many arenas. Obviously, he was a donor of folks that I worked for, and I got to know him because he would do TV, and I was on panel. I had done a panel or two with him before doing Joe Biden and the White House, when I was an MSNBC contributor, and he did AM Joy a lot. And other shows a lot on MSNBC. And so I got to know him just a little bit. And he was just an amazing person. He used his platform for good, right? Yeah. He used his platform to talk about democracy. He used his platform to make sure people were paying attention to what was happening in the country. And many people are not as brave to do that. But, he could have just been like, okay, I don't want to talk politics. I just want to make movies. I just want to stay in Hollywood. But he didn't do that.
No, not at all.
And so he will be sorely missed on just so many levels of being a voice. His iconic movies, obviously, and he was really one of a king. And it's what a tragedy. What a tragedy.
One of my last obsessions with Rob Reiner is about, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, he put out a limited series podcast with Soledad O'Brien. His like pet project was investigating the John F. Kennedy assassination.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
It's also my secret. I feel like everybody's allowed one conspiracy theory, and this one is mine. And Rob Reiner and I shared this, and like it's really worth listening to. Like he was an obsessive. Like he really.
Oh gosh. Okay, I may go back to that.
In the end, like he builds his theory with intelligence. But speaking of the Kennedy legacy.
That's a good transition, Rebecca. That was really good.
There we go.
I love it.
The Kennedy legacy. It's actually now the Trump Kennedy legacy, because the Kennedy Center has been renamed or like maybe renamed. I don't know. I can't tell.
Let's just say illegally, maybe. Not really. Not like, which is not surprising.
The Trump Kennedy Center, as it is now known. But Karine, were you on the board of the Trump Kennedy?
I was. Can I just say that I'm surprised that he even allowed it to be Trump Kennedy. I thought it was. I literally thought. Here's what I thought. I thought it was going to be the Donald and Melania Trump, like Kennedy, like, and not Kennedy, obviously Donald and Melania, whatever center.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was going to be. So I was like, wow, Trump Kennedy. I was like, what?
In some ways,
Like, how did that even?
it doesn't
how did it
surprise
happen?
me that
So look,
he would like Kennedy, like as like a TV personality. Like he was handsome, he had his beautiful wife. I could see a world where he's like, I like having this association where it's like Trump and Kennedy. We are equal. Like he does this sometimes where he's like Lincoln and Trump.
Trump and Reagan. And
yeah, like I kind of feel like in some ways I get it because he's like, everybody associate me with this like handsome,
good point. Rebecca, you may know him better than most of us. That's actually a really good point. That's a really good point.
I know.
But look, I think it's I think there's nothing more petty and pathetic, right? It's just incredibly petty. It's pathetic. But I think more to the point, which is what we've seen from this president, he's more focused on everything but affordability, everything but lowering prices for people, right? People's healthcare premiums are about to double. People can't afford holiday. We're literally in the holiday season. People can't afford holiday gifts. Food is more expensive. Everything is more expensive. And look what he's focused on. Like literally, look what he is focused on. Renaming the Kennedy Center, tearing down the East Wing of the White House, going to Mar-a-Lago and golfing. And I remember 2024. We remember 2024 elections. It was what we were told is that, people elected him because he promised to lower prices, right? He promised
the eggs,
the economy, the eggs, exactly. And he's been there, he's been there nearly almost a year. And what's happening? Prices are going up. And he's focused on everything else but the job that we were told that everybody was saying they wanted him to fix. And so it's petty, it's pathetic, but that's just who he is. That's how he moves. And I think people had a little amnesia in 2024 and forgot who this person was. And I don't know how. We were talking about New York earlier. I grew up in New York, and real New Yorkers who've been there for a long time and remember him in the 90s and the 2000s. This is who Donald Trump is. This is quintessential Donald Trump. And I guarantee you, I was telling friends this yesterday, every federal building in DC probably soon will be named after him, because that's just the way airports, that's just the way he thinks. That's what he did in New York, like literally New York City.
Everything is Trump coded.
What he did. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
Well, we're going to go through a lot of these with our guests coming up in a minute, because she's going to have a lot of perspectives. But really quick, before we have our guest today, let's talk about speaking of things that should be named, the Trump Epstein ballroom. Today is the deadline for the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. But as right ahead of it, the Oversight Committee released a new trove of photos that I think we have up here. Yeah. Okay. We've got creepy texts from Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, I guess we kind of know these things. This one really freaked me out. This Lolita one. And it's just clear what's happening. But then on top of it, the New York Times published an article called Don's Best Friend, How Epstein and Trump Bonded Over the Pursuit of Women. And it's all about sort of their long standing friendship, which, Trump kind of denies and pretends they're not. Do we think that the DOJ is actually going to release them? And if not, are we going to just keep getting these photo dumps?
Look, the public deserves the truth. The public deserves the truth. Anyone involved in it in any way should be held accountable. And that's how I see this. Look, this isn't about politics. It really should not be. It's about holding a pedophile, holding a monster, and all of those who helped him and knew something about it and said nothing. It's about accountability and holding everyone connected to this accountable. And the public deserves the truth. And so I hope that happens. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's such crazy town right now. And we have to, this man was a monster. He was a disgusting monster. And anybody who knew what he was doing, who was part of it, who said nothing, even if you knew and said nothing and you weren't part of it, this is like, everybody should be held accountable. It's disgusting. It's gross. It's awful.
Well, here's what I'm wondering. Like, these photos that keep coming out in dribs and drabs, you know, to me, I look at them and they're horrible. But I'm wondering how they hit people who are not even like MAGA Trump supporters, but maybe people who went to the polls and voted for Trump. Like, do you think that the photos are having that? Because one of the things with the Susie Wiles interview that, you know, I think there are no coincidences. Okay. I think Susie Wiles knew exactly what she was doing. And what she did in that interview is she said, oh, you know, the two of them, they were playboys in the 90s. They were both single men, whatever. So I think like that the way that they're going to spin anything that comes out is going to be, listen, these were two single guys in the 90s. Do you think people are falling for that are in the Trump base? Or do you think these photos are hitting them?
I don't know. I mean, here's what I will say to that is MAGA. This is one of the issues that MAGA didn't like. Remember, this was like the Epstein files. Like the people, you know, they didn't like this. They found it, even themselves, they found it repulsive and didn't like it. And I think that's why Trump pushed back so hard on it and didn't want it to be released. But we also don't know what the DOJ is going to release. Like, you know, things are probably going to be redacted. Like, we don't know right. Trump said he wants it to be released, which when he said that, I was like, okay, what's up? Like, what's up here? What's actually going to happen? And we'll see. It's one of those things where we'll see what actually happens when they release and what the reaction is. And, you know, Trump supporters are interesting, right? They're interesting people in the sense of they are with him, you know, regardless, no matter what. But the Epstein files were something that did bother them at their, you know, at their core, whatever that is. So we will see. We will see.
This is the perfect time to bring in our guest, who's going to have like some real, actual, I think, insights into this. Today we have with us Jessica Tarlov. She's one of the co-hosts of Fox News's The Five. She is like the lone liberal voice at Fox. And I can't imagine what that is like. And we're going to have all sorts of questions about that. She's also the co-host.
Uh-oh. Did we lose her?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So she's also the co-host of Raging Moderates with my old boss, Scott Galloway. Do we have her? I think we're having some technical difficulties there. Wherever she is, we're about to talk to her about this. And I think, oh, there she is.
Yeah. Sorry, I was backstage.
No worries.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Jesse. We're so excited to have you.
Welcome to the moment. We do it live.
Yeah, I see that it's like very Bill O'Reilly. Like, let's just do it live. And
let's just do it live.
My mic was off or something. I don't know. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you. We have Scott Galloway in common.
He's a great person to have in common.
That's true.
It's not a tiny club, but I feel like when you are with people who like know Scott and have worked with Scott, there's like a real kindred situation going on. So thank you for the invite and loving Scott.
We should, we'll talk about it offline. But before we get into it, like I want to like go through, there's so many stories this week that I feel like you will have a unique perspective on because you spend so much time understanding Fox News. But I first want to ask you, like, how did you become the liberal voice at Fox? Like, how did that happen?
It's weird. I just finished the first draft of my book, which is about this. So it's kind of like, thank you. I mean, there's a lot more to go, and it won't be out till September when I hope to rejoin the moment to talk about the book.
Certainly an open space.
Yeah. But so it's a bit of a strange path, and I had no intention of being on TV, which I think a lot of people who end up on TV feel that way, or, you know, had a different career. So my background is in research. I did a PhD in political economy at the London School of Economics. I moved back to New York, where I'm from, and went to work for a guy named Doug Schoen, who was Bill Clinton's pollster in the 90s, and then Mike Bloomberg's pollster. And that was his main client when I started working for him in 2012. And after a few years, Doug, who was a contributor at Fox, actually, since he left the Clinton White House after the 2000 election, started encouraging me to build my media skills. He was like, we're learning how to do polling. You're doing great on that. But this is something that you really need to be able to master. You need to be able to talk to large groups of people. You need to be able to be concise with your thoughts, which I'm not sure I've even mastered that. I get cut off a lot, but I usually have more to say. And so he introduced me to a booker at Fox. I started doing that, but I also went on, remember HuffPost Live and Cheddar, and just went on Newsmax, just kind of making the rounds anywhere that I could learn how to look into a camera and speak and not have a total panic attack. And the relationship with Fox really just grew from there. I was a good fit. I'm a more moderate centrist Democrat, which is better in dealing with conservatives, obviously. And I got hired formally a little bit after the 2016 election. So I spent about 2 years doing the rounds, getting up at 4 a.m. and doing Fox and Friends first, then got a contributorship. And it was 2020, end of 2021, early 2022 that I got named one of the liberal co-hosts of The Five. And I've been there since. So that's a journey. Path.
It is a strange path, but I have more questions at the end, but I want to really dig into there were so many MAGA specific stories and sort of almost what I'm seeing on the outside is the cracking. So let's start with the Vanity Fair article this week. So Vanity Fair put this article, it pulls back the curtain on Trump's cabinet. They did something like 11 on the record interviews, and then and some pretty wild quotes came out of it. And then these pictures that circulated the internet that everybody is obsessed with. Vanna, do we have some of those pictures just to pull out?
Can I just say that first one, that's the best they're gonna look. I actually saw this and I was slay. You guys look fucking great. That was my impression, but then everybody was upset. I mean, this is different, but you don't want to see me that close.
That's really mean. Yeah, that's not cool.
I would cry and cry and cry if this is what ended up in Vanity Fair. Sorry.
I don't think this is as bad. I mean, people are also oh, where's her upper lip? I'm she's a grandma. I think she looks great.
Yeah. These remind me though of do you remember the beginning of Orange is the New Black? All I can hear is the animal. Yeah. This one I think is fair. I don't know. This one I think is fair. No, Jesse, disagree?
Oh no, I do. And also he memes himself now, the pumpkin-headed JD Vance that flies around online. He does it too. I think the only really offensive one was the Karine Jean-Pierre.
What?
I'm looking at you, and hi, we've never met. I've said your name 9,000 times. Sorry, Caroline Levitt, who is now the press secretary. That was the one. That was really unfair.
You have the same job.
Yes.
We get it.
Yeah. Actually, and a colleague at Fox said they wouldn't have done this to Karine, and I'm no, but also she doesn't have injection sites, I think, from at 27 or how
I appreciate it.
But anyway, it is lovely to meet you. I should have said that when I got out of the backstage sort of off mute. I thought the pictures, besides that one, were all totally fine. And honestly, they're desperate to be treated seriously by quote unquote liberal media. And I think it's all a plus for them, frankly. I don't think Susie Wiles made a mistake at all. She knew exactly what she was doing. She did 11 on the record interviews over the course of 11 months. This wasn't I talked to you 11 times in 11 days. Yes. This was hey, it's February 1st. What's up? Hey, it's March 1st. What's up? Hey, it's March 1st. What's up? And the fact that Trump so quickly backed her, and he said, well, I do have an alcoholic's personality. Thank God I don't drink. I think really set the tone for everybody else that if they had been pissed off about it, no one cared. They were not going to get an airing of those complaints.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was waiting for the pause. I'm so sorry. I agree with you on, I don't think they wanted this. Vanity Fair, right? And the author, I forget his name, the person who, right. He is known for, doing these elevated kind of books on the chief of staffs. And I think that they had wanted this type of profile, and I think no one would do it, or had said, no, that's my guess. And then Vanity Fair was like, we'll do this. And you're right. There is this hunger from Trump and the Trump team to be connected in these types of ways to the mainstream media, to these like really, if it's not Time magazine, as we know he loves, or 60 Minutes, whatever it is, there is something to being connected to that. And I think they found this to be a really big, important thing for them. And I totally agree with you on that point, Jesse.
Yeah, I think also if you had watched coverage in conservative circles, like we talked about it on The Five, everybody was like, it's a bit of a nothing burger. Like the New York Times had already said that Elon Musk is on ketamine all the time. Like everyone knows that JD Vance plays around in the conspiracy theory land. Like the one that I thought was the biggest shot across the bow was Susie Wiles going after Pam Bondi and saying that she whiffed on the Epstein files, because her handling of that, from reporting and just also people that I know, has been a big source of concern and upset for Trump, and the whole having influencers parading around with those binders, right, that didn't really have the Epstein files in them. So that was the one that I read as more serious. I don't know if he's planning on making any major changes, but I would think that Pam Bondi would be close to the top of the list of people that he might want to cycle out. So that was my take on it. And I think back to from the first administration, and I even said on air that I thought that Melania's fashion was not being given its due. Like
I agree. I say this all the time. I love Melania's fashion, and I will not apologize for it.
How could you not? And the fact that I'm not saying she has to get a Vogue cover necessarily, but everyone was treating them as such insane pariahs. And then once 2024 happened and these massive shifts in voter demos, right? That suddenly you had people of color voting for Trump in higher numbers. You had more women voting for Trump in higher numbers. You had like every young man. You see the stylists and the designers taking note, and they started dressing Melania and Ivanka and giving them the more play this way. And I think that Vanity Fair represented a kind of holy grail moment, right? Like that they're moving into a world in which we consume and function in more. And so that was all I took from it. I don't think they're thinking about it. Like we're thinking about it more than they are.
One thing that I thought was really weird was that JD Vance was part of this. I mean, I can't imagine like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
It was weird that he was part of this. Usually they get their own standalone. But I know for him, I'm sure it was important for his brand to have been considered as part of the inner circle. But that was the thing that, as someone who worked in the White House, I was like, wait, that would never be like something that would happen, that the vice president is part of this. But
the Biden White House, I don't need to tell you this, since you were very much playing a gatekeeper role in a lot of ways, like was so insulated versus this administration that basically just says like, all press is good press. We're just going with it. Like Stephen Chung is like, you throw anything you want at the wall. And if, even 40% of it is good, we'll amplify that. Yeah. We have the warriors online that can make it trend everywhere that we need to. And they just move on with their day. And so they don't really fear this stuff in the same way that the Biden admin did, or even the Obama administration, thinking about what it was like from 2008 to 2016.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird that he was there, and I don't think any other vice president would have been part of this. And I also thought it was interesting that you just named him, that the communications director was not part of this too. I was
a weird figure, though. I feel like he is.
I know he's a massive, big figure. Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like with the Trump administration, like another key difference, and then I do want to move on to talk to you about the Epstein files because that's one thing that you mentioned. But I do feel like with the Trump administration, like I actually know these cast of characters. Like part of what Trump does is be an amazing executive producer. It's like he's like, these are our
always be branding.
It's always branding. Like the only person that we're like not that physically familiar with is Susie Wiles, but all the rest of these people are like recognizable characters. And like, I don't know, that's part of what it looked like to me, is like it was like the band of characters in the Trump administration. And JD Vance is like definitely one of those, you know, like he casted this on purpose, Trump, in a lot of ways.
I want to know.
Oh, sorry. Just one thing that I think is fun, and you guys maybe can use it in further discussion. So Greg Gutfeld, my colleague on the 5, always says the Trump administration is a pirate ship. And I think that it is one of the most apt descriptions of what is going on there, right? Like it's this, you know, the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
And that article and the photography, all of the totally captured there.
I agree. I guess my one thing is like, where is the Susie Wiles? People are going to get mad at me, cancel me. I read that article and I was like, I kind of fuck with Susie Wiles.
Oh, yeah. I want to hang out with her the most. Like Pat Summerall's daughter, too.
Yeah.
Like
this
grew up crazy.
Yeah. Well, you know, I met her during transition and she has, you know, she has a badass vibe. But the other thing too, guys, I mean, like she disagrees with the president and like she says it, she disagrees with a lot of his policies and still executes them. I mean, it's like, what in the world is happening here? What in the world is happening?
She's like, she's a master manager, you know, like it takes such a specific personality to be somebody who's like, to work in proximity to power without needing power yourself.
Right.
You know? And like, I feel like all the rest of these cast of characters are a little bit angling for their next very visible job, whereas Susie Wiles, I think, is a master manager in that way. But just one of the things you mentioned was like the one thing that you think might spark Trump to be upset is what you said about the Epstein files. Of course, today is the deadline for the DOJ releasing them. I feel like, you know, I live in such a liberal bubble. No matter what I do, like it's very hard to get out of a liberal bubble. And so can you tell me a little bit about like how Fox is, I'm going to use the word spinning, but like maybe that's not the right word. How is Fox looking at this deadline and covering it?
I mean, frankly, it hasn't been on the radar because this week has been so insane with the Brown and MIT shooting.
Yeah.
So, you know, Friday news dump, never going to get as much attention. Mm-hmm. Mike Johnson sends the House home. Which is very, very intentional, or at least the Republicans home. You know, Thomas Massey will hang out and Marjorie Taylor Greene. But like besides that, they won't be around. And, you know, I think that it will get some mention, but my expectation is there'll be tons of redactions like there have been before. And this will be another, you know, notch on the drip, drip, drip belt, essentially. You know, I think the New York Times piece that came out yesterday that was like Trump and Don as best friends, that had that disgusting anecdote about like flossing with pubic hair. Like those are the kinds of things that will exist more in our consciousness. But, you know, people who support the president really find a difference between quote, like they say words versus deeds. And they like most of the deeds. They have a much easier time just saying, oh, I wouldn't have done that. And honestly, as a Democrat, and Karine, I think you've talked about this as well, like you should be more free to say like, not so much this, but like, I love this, right? Or like we have kind of like a circular firing squad approach to a lot of things. And Trump, because he does change his mind and he has evolved so much. I mean, I grew up in New York City. he was a liberal, right? Then he was maybe an independent. Then he was, whatever he is now. It's not certainly traditional conservatism. Like they can tolerate things like, oh, I didn't love that speech, or the plaque, writing the horrible things on the plaques.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal, because also I don't think that there's a smoking gun in it. I think it's an important story. It has to come out. There are so many people that are tied to this that have a life in polite society that I don't think that they deserve, because as the details leak and you see like the birthday book and things like that, it makes more sense why someone like Larry Summers was essentially excommunicated overnight, because Jeffrey Epstein didn't hide who he was. Mm-hmm. This was not a monster hiding in plain sight. This was a monster being a monster in plain sight. And I think they can talk about it from that angle.
I just want to like throw out one grievance that I had that has nothing to do with Republican versus Democrat, or maybe it kind of does. I couldn't believe that David Brooks last month or 2 months ago, whatever, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times sort of chastising the Epstein files, only to come out in a picture. Like,
my counterpoint to that, or what I do believe is, so that was a dinner in 2011. It was a very well-attended dinner. I think that there's a decent chance that like he didn't even remember that happened. Yeah. I totally get it. And the timing of it is insane. And I'm sure whoever heads up PR for the New York Times was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that I have to do this right now. But
disclose to be like, hey, I happened to be at a dinner in 2011, or like, whatever it is. Like, it's almost like the disclosure, like how dare you sort of like be on Mount Olympus and chastise the world for how it's dealing with this thing when you in fact have ties to it, regardless of what those ties are. That's my soapbox this morning.
No, I totally get it. And I'm sure he's not having a great day.
Yeah, I agree. That's something we could all agree with. He's not having a great day.
David Brooks is not having a good day.
No.
You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey staying in DC, even though the rest of the Republicans are going home. One of the things that I keep hearing and thinking about myself is what Marjorie Taylor Greene said on 60 Minutes about it now being MAGA versus America first in the sort of like complicated reconfiguration of the Republican Party. I wonder like whether you're starting to see that in Fox coverage, in your co-host. Like, do you think that really is a break that's happening?
I think that it might be on kind of like the outskirts of it, but I don't think in the core that is what's going on. And I think that he's going to be very powerful until as a cult figure, not necessarily. I mean, he's in arguably a lame duck period right now, and then he'll be even lamer when hopefully Democrats take the House. I have, wishes for the Senate, but we'll see what happens there. But, he will leave office. He's even saying that now. I know there was the reporting that he had a meeting with Alan Dershowitz about, figuring out some alternative path to staying. But I think that he's going, and I think that he will leave a very powerful figure that way, but they are going to have a primary as big as we did in 2020. Like this idea of JD Vance is the guy, that isn't happening. We were talking about it on the 5 yesterday, and people were throwing out like, and then Glenn Youngkin will get in, probably DeSantis will try again, because DeSantis has a very good governance record. It's not my kind of governance, but people really like him. And then you'll have
to Gavin Newsom kind of in some way.
Florida v. California is an interesting debate. Totally. And then you'll have Marco Rubio, who's wanted to be president, since he was 4, I'm sure. Yeah. And I don't know if a Pete Hegseth, like if he's still in that position, or if he leaves and then wants to come back in, is, someone coming from the side. Ted Cruz is building his own brand separate from the kind of more traditional MAGA orthodoxy to some degree, and going after the Groypers and like Nick Fuentes. So and you'll probably get like a Tucker Carlson or someone from the world.
That's what I keep thinking.
Podcast.
The only person I think who could like pick up that Trump mantle could be a Tucker Carlson, who has that like media, savvy in a way that Trump brought to the table.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Tucker. I haven't spoken to him in years, but obviously worked with him for a while. And I think he's very good. He's obviously very savvy, but I think some of the stuff like going to a Russian supermarket and saying like, it's crazy, it's fantastic here, like everything's so orderly. I think it would be very hard to even be taken seriously in a primary. Like Trump wouldn't even go and do that. So I don't know.
Yeah. My last question is, okay, what is one thing you think Fox does really, really, really well that liberals just don't quite get? And then I want to ask you what they don't do well. But more importantly, like what do they do really, really well that like we don't get?
So two things. One is kind of a joke because I said it on a panel at CrookedCon with Hassan Piker and he was making fun of me. But
it's not Piker.
Fox looks really good. Like it physically looks great. Like graphics, sets, hair and makeup.
Yep.
Wardrobe, like it has a sheen to it that Roger Ailes was a TV genius, and that has very much carried over. So that's one thing that I do think is important. The second thing is that the main folks on Fox are not necessarily like anchors and reporters or commentators. They're human beings to the audience, and they know everything about us. So we're very open about like the highs and lows of life. Like we talk about personal stuff constantly. Like my first pregnancy got outed by Dana Perino, like on an episode of The Five by accident. Like those kinds of things stick in people's consciousness.
You guys are like a messy family in a way that like liberals are
dysfunctional. Right. And like take themselves so seriously all the time. And it's been very freeing and healthy for me to be able to also like grow up and make mistakes in an environment where people are not like, oh, I'm out to get your head necessarily. They're like, oh, like, Jess tweeted this thing that like didn't end up being true. That happened to me a few months ago about something with a DHS thing, and Stephen Miller came after me, and I like chose to apologize because I made a mistake and like just owned it. And Greg was very magnanimous about it. He's like, you have to act like a human being and then people will treat you like a human being. And I see that out in the world when I run into Fox viewers. They're always like, oh, your politics, they aren't ours, but like your daughters are so cute, or like we were so sad when your father passed away, or there's like a connective tissue that's built in a different way than I think other networks.
Yeah, there's like a human. I think that like the through line that I'm hearing from you with all of these things is that Republicans tend to like forgive the humanness of people much more than liberals do. There's like a perfectionism that liberals demand of one another.
I think so. And I mean, Karine, obviously, I wrote a whole book to some degree about this and the difficulty of it. But, they find a way to get to common cause a lot easier than we do. Like we will cut each other en route to a victory. And they're just like, our tent has to include people with sometimes diametrically opposed views on things like, global interventions or even tax policy, even when I started this interview with you guys, I identified myself, right, as like a more moderate centrist Democrat. Like if you had a Republican on, they would just be like, I'm a Republican today.
And that can mean any number of things.
Right. I'm not like an AOC Democrat, or like he was sucking up to him, but we had Cory Booker on and he was like, I'm a Scott Galloway Democrat. And I was like, all right, he'll give you money. I get it. But, and I love it. He was great.
Like Alexis Booker, this is for you. Please control that man. He is so cheesy.
I feel like it's very sweet though. Like the last thing he asked us, we did tax policy or whatever. But then he was like, do you guys have any tips for marriage? And it was like 2 weeks before they got married. And that was very sweet. But, people will say I'm an AOC Democrat, right? Or like I'm a Bernie Democrat, or I'm a Joe Biden Democrat, or a Barack Obama. And it's like, you know what? You believe in a strong social safety net and economic policy that can make you as rich as Warren Buffett. That's it. Like, that's what we've got to be, or that's how I feel. I'm very into this like strong floor, no ceiling situation that's happening right now.
Ooh, I like that. Say that one
it's
a strong floor.
It's a new book. You should have the writer on, this guy, Oliver Libby, who I'm sure you know, Karine. He wrote a book called Strong Floor, No Ceiling, and it's kind of like a policy manual, I guess, for Democrats going forward, because we've been pinged, or dinged, I should say, rather, rightly so, for feeling like there's a cap to how successful people should be. Like all this talk of like billionaires shouldn't exist. It's like billionaires are fine. Just make sure that regular people can also have a decent life.
Yeah. Amen. Jessica Tarlov, where can people find you?
I mean, right here on the moment. Raging Moderates comes out Tuesdays and Fridays, and I'm on the 2 to 3 days a week. I share the liberal seat with Harold Ford Jr., who's a former congressman from Tennessee. And so I'm on today. So if you're not busy at 5, we'd love to have you. And I'm so appreciative of you guys inviting me.
We can't wait to have you back when your book is out.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you
it's
so
nice
much.
to properly meet you. Yeah.
Same here. Thanks.
Have a good one. Bye. She's so lovely and smart.
Yeah. That was fun. Meredith, how are you doing?
Well, let's talk about our moments. Let's discuss the elephant in the room. I'm going to tell you guys what's having a moment for me. Robitussin DM. Yeah. I'm back on the hard stuff, baby, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Hard stuff.
Call me Justin Bieber, because I'm basically making scissor. Remember when
I don't think I've ever had Robitussin. I don't think I've
ever had Robitussin.
I don't think so. No.
My mom like shoved that down all of me and my siblings. I was like a croup cough kid, and it would be like glug, glug, glug.
Yeah.
My sister told me that she has been watching like old home movies of us at Christmas. And she's like, yeah, I'm watching this old home movie of you, Meredith, at Christmas. And you're sick as a dog. And she's like, your cough sounds exactly like your cough sounds right now. So anyway, you guys, I am sick today. I showed up for the moment. I want to thank Rebecca and Karine for really leading it here. The good news is I didn't infect anyone by doing this episode, but it is nice to know it's Friday and I can kind of log off. But I want to know what's having a moment for my 2 wonderful co-hosts.
Oh man, Rebecca, you go first.
I'll go first.
Okay. I was not expecting this. I got to think about it.
Yeah, you take your time, because my moment is these plaques that Trump added to the Walk of Fame. I just think these are like the most wild. So if you didn't see it, there's like this Walk of Fame that Trump has put up with all these presidential pictures. But now underneath it are these plaques, and some of which he personally hand wrote. And so, like, for example, this is Joe Biden. And this one I think is overkill, because either like it's the picture of the auto pen. You know what I mean? It's like, pick a lane. You can either make a ridiculous, like pick a lane here. But Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history. It starts off. And at the end, it says, nicknamed both Sleepy and Crooked Joe Biden, was dominated by his radical left. Like, it's so wild. But some of the other ones I think are even crazier. Like Andrew Jackson, he puts Andrew Jackson was treated terribly by the press, almost as much as Abraham Lincoln and Donald J. Trump would be in the future. Like, it is so.
Who wrote them? Who do you think? Like, who was assigned that job to write them?
Caroline Levitt said that some of them he personally hand wrote. I don't like the Joe Biden. He like clearly personally wrote, and like this man is nuts. It really, Meredith and I, when we first saw it, we're like, this is what it looked like when I wrote in my middle school yearbook under like the girls that I didn't like. It's like this. Fugly. It's like the bird book, but he's the president of the United States. And like, I never know what to do with these types of things, because like, it's so my sense of humor. Like, if I saw this in a movie, I'd be like, this is like, Veep is my favorite TV show of all time. It's like, this stuff is both really, really funny to me. And then I'm like, oh no, this is actually real life. This man holds the nuclear codes. We might be going to war with Venezuela. Like,
which is insane.
Like, it's such a fine line for me here, where I'm like, this is hilarious, and also like, this is horrific and insane. And also, like, the next president who gets in there, if it is a Democrat, like is going to have to spend some amount of money to get these removed from the wall. Like, I'm curious what they do with these in the future. Is like, are they going to go in a museum? Like, it's just, anyways, that's what's having a moment for me, is the burn book happening at the White House.
You know, it's so funny. I was thinking about what you just said there at the end, which is, oh gosh, it's, you know, when he's gone and hopefully a normal person is back sitting behind the Resolute desk, is like, what do they do first? Right? What do they attack first? Right? Is it like, do you hold off on the crazy plaques because everything, like, because the agencies are gutted? Like, what do you focus on first? And that's going to be, you know, it's going to be hard to figure out. It's like, or do you have different teams and committees that you create and be like, okay, one is going to focus on the White House campus, the other one's going to focus on the agents. I mean, what do you do first?
What do you do? Yeah. I mean, I do think I keep having this feeling, and I could be wrong, that maybe we're through the worst of Trumpism because we're starting to see cracks, because like that is my hope. And yet I think no matter what, we're so far down. Like there are things we'll never quite be able to get.
Yeah.
Is my fear.
Look, I think sadly, I think a lot worse is coming in 2026. Before it gets better, it will get better, folks. It's just going to be a lot worse before we get there. And I agree with you. The damage that's been done has taken us back 40 to 60 years. But my moment is just being on with you guys. This is being on the moment.
No, we love you.
We got to go. So I don't want to keep you.
I know poor Meredith is like, she's just dying. Meredith is going to come back next week, but she's like, this poor girl all week has like been barely hanging on. I think that it's like, you know, this time of year where like your body is like, okay, we're going to shut down. We're like, we're ready to shut down. And I think hers just said the end, pull the plug.
And Rebecca, it happens at the end of every campaign that I've worked on. It is like your body holds up and it's like, I'm done. Meredith, get some sleep. Get a lot of fluids, get a lot of rest.
And you have a good weekend, Karine. Next week, we're going to have a better news week. We have to, because my God. This one
was kind of ridiculous, though. I mean, the Vanity Fair.
It was, I mean,
a lot of it is just kind of like the plaques. It's a bit of ridiculousness.
Chaos. It is chaos. Well, get some rest, everybody. Big hugs. Bye, everyone.